This is part 2 of the note-taking presentation offered by the Office of Learning Services here at Millersville University. If you have not seen part 1, please exit and go to that presentation. As we previously discussed, there are different note-taking styles. It's important to consider the various styles when organizing the information that you receive from each class. These various styles can be chosen based on how you study, the course that's being offered, and how the class is taught by that particular professor. And then also you want to consider the overall goal of why you're writing your notes. Does this class require a paper at the end, a research paper, or do they require a large exam or several little quizzes? All of these decisions are going to affect the style of note-taking that you choose. It's also important to consider which learning style that you prefer. Are you a more visual learner? Do you prefer more words? Do you like to keep the subjects organized? How much time you have before each class? All of these are also factors that you would want to consider when choosing a method. These are the various examples of the different methods we will be choosing. There's the outline method, Cornell, sentence method, mapping method, and charting method. All of these examples are going to be posted alongside with this presentation. There is a visual example of each one that you can view while going through this presentation. So please refer to that. So the first method is the outline method. This method of note-taking is great for organizing main topics and subtopics. I find myself using this method most often, and it's effective for several various types of subjects and courses. So you're going to find this one to be the most used, I would say. It starts off with writing the main topic. You would write the main topic on the far left margin, and then below would be the subtopic or supporting details. And those would be indented further to separate out from the main topic. You would see this, for example, if the subject was biology. You might see a subtopic as the different cells or the cell. And then under the cell, indented further, would be the various components of a cell, the cell membrane, and so on. And you would want to define each of those. And those would be further indented outward to the right. This method, you can use bullets, you can number the different components or subtopics with details, whatever you feel is best and you're most comfortable with. I use little arrows or dash marks sometimes. You can use stars, whatever is you feel necessary, but you want to make sure that there's an indentation and there's a distinction between the main topic and the subtopics. This method is also helpful for note-taking if you're creating a study guide or if you're preparing for an essay or short answer exam. It's very easy to separate out the different subtopics, and it's very organized. I use this method for even writing papers. I might write, the topic sentence for that paragraph at the top, and then below would be the details. So this can be helpful for writing papers as well. As I said earlier, refer to your handout for any examples that we go over. The next method is the Cornell system. This method is also very organized. What you would want to do is you want to first divide your paper into two columns. You're going to include the larger column on the right and the skinnier column on the left. You always want to make sure that you are writing the topic and date at the top as well. This would probably go for all of the methods that we were going to be discussing today. Also, make sure that during the lecture you're writing all of the majority of your notes on the right side. You want to make sure you use that for the bulk of the information. And then at the end of class, or towards the end of the lecture, you want to be writing the different key ideas, key terms, or main topics on the left side, in the left side of the margins. And this will be your Q column. You can use this as you sort through your notes and you're looking for, oh, where did we discuss the cell in biology? Oh, here we go. There's all the information about the cell. And then you have all that information right there, easy to find. What's also helpful to do is to summarize at the bottom of the page what the entire lecture was about. Maybe in a couple of sentences in your own words, write the main ideas. This can help you help ensure that you understand the information. Again, paraphrasing is always going to help ensure that you understand information. And then, in addition, it's also going to be useful if you write down any questions you might have, questions that you have for the professor, questions that you want to look up later in the textbook, or maybe, if possible, generate some test questions that you can ask yourself and use for studying later. The next method is the sentence method. Now this is a very, this method has its advantages and its disadvantages. What you will do is you are going to write every new thought, fact, or topic on a separate line. And you're also going to want to number these lines so that you can separate them out into different topics, so you know when one starts and when the other ends. And the advantage of this is it can be slightly more organized than than writing just in a paragraph, yet you still get to write a lot of information and you're going to be able to absorb as much as possible. It's also helpful for thinking and tracking your content. But the disadvantages are that it's difficult to determine between major and minor points that are discussed throughout the lecture, since it's all just numbered together and there's no separation of subtopics and details from major topics. It's going to be hard to differentiate that, but what can be helpful is if you go over your notes afterwards and then rewrite them or highlight them to differentiate between the two. Sometimes you might want to rewrite them or type them up, but I find that if you just highlight them in different colors, that could be a simple way to run through your notes and help you move more quickly. So this sentence method is something you want to use for if information is coming at you very fast and the content is heavy. If a professor is talking a lot, there's little time to take breaks or pause, you would want to use this method. And you also want to use this method if you are having difficulty differentiating between the different points and you really don't know how things are fitting together. You can use this method and then separate it out later when you have more resources at your fingertips. The mapping method is another great method. This is helpful for summarizing information. These might be helpful if you're thinking through very complex information or problems. It's a visual method. You are going to be creating a map on your paper, and it's presented in a format that shows the overall structure of the subject. This might be good for sciences and things that connect and have a lot of interconnections between the subtopics. So how to make the mapping, how to start mapping your notes. So you want to start with the title of the subject in the center of your page. You're not going to put it at the top, as I previously discussed, but you're going to put it in the center and you're going to draw a circle around it. Now from there, you are going to come across those different subheadings and those subtopics that we always discuss that support the main idea. And what you'll do is you'll draw a line out from the circle and put those subdivisions out onto the sides, like a little web. And then on those subtopics, you can include even more subdivisions, little lines, and write information on the side there. Now, as you burrow into the different subjects and uncover more subheadings and individual facts, you can, write them next to the subheadings, but you can also connect the subheadings and link them together. So if two specific subheadings relate, you can draw a line between those two circles. And then you also want to be really cognizant of where you're putting those related subheadings. So if you have two that relate to each other and you want to draw lines, you don't want one being on the top left and one being on the bottom right. You want to make sure they're in the same area so that you can keep those notes organized and so they make sense later. This is a very important note-taking method that you want to see visually, so please do refer to the examples attached on the website. The charting method is our final method. This is great for preparing for notes that you're going to write chronologically. It's going to be helpful if there are sequential events that you want to make sure are in order, and if there's a lot of categories to what you're learning about. It's a method that you want to definitely prepare for. If you're doing your pre-reading and you're reading your syllabus and you're ready to go for the class period, then you'll know that you need to prepare a chart that is going to have maybe dates, key players, the event that's described, the setting, all those things you want to know and separate out into different columns, and that will become a chart for you, and you can use that to sequence those events. It's also great for the overview of a whole course. If you want one big sequence written out, this is great for studying. If you have a final exam that's cumulative, you would want to use the charting method. So in summary, it's important to take complete notes. This doesn't just include what we do in class. As we said, it's important to read your textbook before going to class. Go over the syllabus. Just review and be prepared for what's coming. That way you'll be comfortable with the material and note-taking will not seem as haphazard. And then when you're in class, record as much information as possible, but do not record every single word stated by the professor. You are not transcribing. You are trying to learn. You're trying to understand the information. So make sure you're leaving time to really absorb it. And then afterwards, review your notes. Rewrite them if necessary. Take out those key terms so that you're ready for studying later. All these are important for the process of note-taking. So this has been the completion of our note-taking presentation. Please contact the Office of Learning Services if you have any questions. Thank you so much.